Hey guys, my name's Leo Kelly G, and today I've got a practicing pet peeve that has profoundly puzzled me for many years. It's something that I've seen taught a lot, it's something that I've seen taught wrong, and so today I hope to set the record straight with this particular exercise and help you guys make the most out of your practice. I'm of course talking about the dreaded 1, 2, 3, 4 finger picking exercise. Let's get into it. Okay, so I have two main issues with the 1, 2, 3, 4 picking exercise. The first one is that the pads of the fingers tend to be used instead of the tips of the fingers when fretting notes. And what this means that, especially when you get into the higher register of the guitar on the lower strings, that it's a lot more difficult to fret notes because they don't come out as cleanly. The reason being is that a larger tool is being used than is needed for the job, essentially. If you use the tip of your finger, you can really zone in on, especially notes up here, getting them to come out nice and cleanly. Whereas if you're using the pad of your finger and that's what you're used to doing, when you get to the higher frets, it's going to be really difficult to then get those notes to come out cleanly and actually ring out in any sort of meaningful way. The second issue is that the fingers are used in a sort of mindless kinetic chain as opposed to being used just by themselves and actually developing any finger independence from each other. And what I mean by this is that when you get past the first 4 notes, and again, this doesn't have to necessarily be on the 1st fret, you can start on the 7th fret or anywhere where your fingers can get all 4 notes and all 4 fingers on the notes all at once, as opposed to taking one off after the other. And that obviously depends on the size of your hands and your finger flexibility as well. But after you play the first 4 notes, moving on to the next string, all fingers come off and then do exactly the same thing again each time. And what this means is that instead of having your fingers learning any sort of coordination or independence from each other, they just end up being able to do that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 really well, but it doesn't really translate into any sort of meaningful musical sort of skill. It just means you can just go really quickly. And it's a nice metric for speed and it's a nice way to sort of measure progress, but it doesn't really translate into anything that's actually useful. And so something that's more useful I find with this exercise is to slow it down a heck of a lot more than you think you need to begin with, and make sure that each fingertip is on the guitar as opposed to the pads of the fingers. So really making sure you're bending your fingers over and getting as close to the fingertips as possible. And then making sure that once you get to the point where you've loaded one string up with all 4 fingers, as you move on to the next string, is to then move just one finger at a time, which to begin with, if you've been doing it sort of one finger, taking all your fingers off, can feel very strange because you're having to actually move each finger by itself while keeping the other ones pushed down at the same time. So it's really good for not only developing the coordination of your fingers to move independently of each other, but also against each other while sort of pushing down with the other fingers, so it increases the strength of your fingers as well. If you're starting up on the 7th fret, where it's a little bit closer together, obviously you can move down and that'll increase the mobility in your fingers as well, which is fantastic. But the main 2 things to focus on to begin with are the coordination and the strength building in this exercise. And also obviously your strict alternate picking if you can with your right hand as well. So I'm going to start on the 1st fret and just go a couple rounds and make sure you watch out for the fact that my fingers are as bent as possible. So I'm making sure the tips of my fingers are on the strings, and then every single time that I change string, you'll hopefully hear the last note of the 1st string and then the 1st note of the string that I'm moving on to, meaning that these 3 fingers are staying down and these ones and each finger is moving by itself of its own accord. Obviously you can do that to your heart's content in terms of how much you want to do it. I'd recommend maybe just doing it once a day, just go up from maybe fret 1 to fret 12 and then back again. If you can go higher, then by all means do that as well. It's a really good exercise, but the main thing is that the speed of the exercise needs to be a lot lower to begin with, because it's not really designed for building speed specifically. It's designed for building speed after you've built up the strength and the coordination as well. So those were my 2 pet peeves with the famous 1, 2, 3, 4 guitar picking exercise. I hope you guys find it useful. It's a really good exercise for increasing strength, speed, mobility, flexibility, as well as coordination between the left and right hand. But hopefully now you guys can avoid the couple of pitfalls that befall quite a few people who are practicing with that particular exercise. If you did find it useful, it would mean the world if you could drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and also push the little notification bell so you keep up to date with all the new videos and content that I've got coming out very soon. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.